We love having Tim Reynolds on this program, former writer for the Times. He's a 518 guy, and now he's all about the Associated Press. Been covering the NBA and the NBA Finals, and Tim Reynolds joins us here on Big Board Sports in Albany, New York. Good morning, Tim.
Good morning, Roger.
How you been,
too
buddy?
long, man. How are you?
I'm good, man. Good hearing your voice. It's been a while since.
Hearing yours?
Yeah, well, I'm still here. Still here. just on a different station these days, but it's all good, man. And I'm thinking Cleveland. Let's start there tonight. My gut tells me, well, first of all, let me just say I think this series is over. Cleveland's not winning the series, but I don't think they're going to be swept, Tim. I think they get Game 3 tonight. Give me your thoughts on tonight's Game 3 and what you think the Cavs will do to try to make that happen.
This might not make for great radio, but I totally agree with what you just said. I think Cleveland gets tonight, and then I think this is the last game they win this season. I just think LeBron has been too good throughout these playoffs to get swept. At some point, J.R. Smith or Channing Frye or Kyle Korver or Tristan Thompson, and to another extent, maybe even Kyrie, some of those guys are going to make shots tonight. And Game 2 wasn't a total runaway. I mean, I think people might get swayed by the final score, thinking it was. It was a one-point game in the third. I mean, Cleveland was there. They hung with them for a while. But if Cleveland's going to stay with this, play with absolute fast, high-octane NASCAR pace, they're not going to win. And I don't think they're not going to win consistently. It might be enough to get them one game. But this is clearly the way that they want to go. They're going down swinging, and I applaud that, but this is the wrong way to attack Golden State. There aren't too many good ways to do it, but they'll make some shots tonight. They'll get one. Then I see them losing Friday, and I think there's a parade in Oakland around the middle of next week.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that either. I mean, tonight, to me, Irving needs to play well. Can't miss 15 to 23 shots like he did in Game 2. And then somebody else, I mean, J.R. Smith or Tristan Thompson, who's been really a no-show in this series with 8 rebounds in 2 games. Somebody else needs to step up and help LeBron, who I have no doubt will play a big game tonight. He's played big in the first 2 games. He'll play big again tonight. But he needs some of those other guys around him outside of Love and Irving, like the 2 that I mentioned, and more to really put it together tonight to win this game.
Oh, no question. And again, being at home, I think they'll have a bit more confidence from the outside. I'll say this, though. If Golden State gets out like 20-6, or if it's 29-19 or something like that after the first quarter, it's huge trouble. I think Cleveland's got to make a bunch of shots early. And LeBron's kind of in a no-win here because the Cavs are at their best when LeBron is in attack mode early on. But with the guys in an 0-2 hole and nobody really playing well other than him and Kevin right now, LeBron's going to, if 14 years of watching this guy tell us anything, he's going to want to get those other guys going early. It's high risk, high reward tonight for Bron. If he goes that route and tries to get Kyrie, JR, Shumpert, whoever it is going early, and he is an excellent passer of the basketball, we all know that, if they don't deliver for him, that's pretty much a fait accompli. If they do get it going, then the Cavs will finally be in position to do what they want.
Hey, Tim, Chris Sonorato up here with Roger as well. As a guy who covers the Miami Heat regularly, certainly saw the big 3 there with LeBron, Wade, and Bosh. Do you have a problem with what Kevin Durant did in joining the Warriors? And do you believe that the NBA has a real problem on its hands in terms of competitive balance?
Well, no and yes to the 2 questions. I have no problem. I mean, it's called free agency. You are free to do what you want. And if he had stayed in OKC, great. If he chose to go elsewhere, great. And that, I have no problem with him doing what he did. And a lot of guys in the league, just talking about other players who have talked about it, those guys aren't Kevin Durant. Those guys, if you were coveted and wooed and offered 2 years at $50-something million, you'd go. If they had that skill set, they'd understand what it's like to be Kevin Durant. Now, the second part of your question, though, there's a huge competitive balance problem in the league. I know you guys were talking in the last segment about how the Jets season is already over, and it is. you know, seeing an NFL team tank, it's really bad. There's like 10 teams in the NBA that just had no interest in winning the second half of the season. I think you'll be able to tell from the way some teams handled the draft later this month and free agency first couple weeks of July. There's some teams that have no interest in trying to win right now either. And the thinking behind that is twofold. Stockpile picks and do what Philly's doing and hope that the quote-unquote process pays off, which it rarely does. Or just concede that you're not better than Golden State, San Antonio, Cleveland, and whoever that second team du jour is in the East, whether it's Boston or Washington or whomever. Just concede that you're not there, so why bother trying? I can't stand that approach. The NBA has a real problem, not with superstar teams, not with what the Heat did 7 years ago, not with what the Warriors did. LeBron's added a ton of really good players in Cleveland in his 3 years back there, and the Cavs have paid big money for it in salary and tax. I'd rather see all teams try. I'd rather see all teams give a darn and try to win 82 games instead of what you're seeing right now.
We're talking to Tim Reynolds from the Associated Press. Game 3 NBA Finals is tonight. Who's the best player, Tim, on the floor that you've seen in the first two games? I think it's going to come down to, is it LeBron or is it Kevin Durant?
The best player in the first two games has been Kevin. And, and that's, it's not by a wide margin. I mean, LeBron's been great. Kevin's just been better, and okay, LeBron's assist numbers are higher or whatever. I don't really buy into stuff like usage rate and defensive pace number, especially in a small sample like 2 games. I don't get into that at all. Kevin Durant has an edge to him in this series that we have not seen from Kevin Durant before, really, other than maybe the games against OKC this year, quite honestly. He remembers it's been 5 years since he got to the finals. It's been 5 years since the Heat took the ring off his finger. It's been 5. He got embarrassed in that series. They won game 1, then they got swept the rest of the way. It's been a long time coming. He's had to deal with all this venom directed at him for going to Golden State. This is angry KD, and angry KD has an edge to him, and that edge has made him the best player in the world for the last 2 games. He hasn't passed LeBron yet. Paul Pierce is he's just taking digs at LeBron when he says that, but he's been the best player in the world in game 1 and game 2.
But he's getting closer, right, to LeBron. I mean, yeah, LeBron is the number 1 player in the world. I think most everyone agrees with that. Is Durant a close second?
I don't know how close yet, but I think he's now clearly number 2. I think even coming into this year, you could argue a lot of guys were in the conversation for number 2. I think Kevin has emerged from that pack, and now we have a true challenger, if you will, for the title. And he's 5 years younger than LeBron. I think this might have been LeBron's best season. I mean, I voted LeBron MVP, and it wasn't honestly, it wasn't a real difficult decision for me. Westbrook and Harden had amazing numbers, but I still think that the MVP is the best player. I saw the Cavs twice in Miami play without LeBron. They were awful. The Cavs are terrible without LeBron James. He's valuable to that team, but I still think he's the best player on earth. Now, though, we're starting to see the shift where it's going to be Kevin Durant's league sooner than later.
Tim, while we have you, just last thing from me, and for our Syracuse fans here, what kind of contract is Dion Waiters going to get this offseason?
That's a really good question, Chris. There's going to be teams that offer him. I think there's going to be teams that offer him a max. I think that's going to happen just because the numbers are so crazy right now. And as we saw last year with Tyler Johnson, who's a nice player, he went 1-2 against Siena. Remember a few years ago?
That's right.
And I do tell him that as he gets very angry at me. For Tyler Johnson, you get what the market bears. You get what the market says you're worth, and he got $50 million because the Nets are the Nets, because the Nets are basketball's Jets, I guess. So it just takes one team. The Lakers are now run by Dion's former agent, Rob Pelinka. He's the guy who's, the right hand to Magic Johnson out there. The Lakers are going to take a hard look at Dion. But what's to stop the Nets from throwing crazy money at him? What's to stop a team like Sacramento from just throwing crazy money at him? I think in the end, if he stays in Miami, and I do believe he will, it's going to be something in the neighborhood of 4 years, $60 million. I don't think he's going to get max money from the Heat because they've got other guys to go get. They've got cap room, but they got to get a lot of other guys. I think he wants to stay. I think you're going to see Dion take less than top dollar to stay in Miami, but don't be surprised if he gets a max offer.
Hey, Tim, before I let you go, you work for the Times Union. You know the 518 pretty good. What was your most memorable moment of working with the Times Union? Maybe the biggest event or whatever that you covered during your time in the Capital Region.
Wow.
Is there one really that sticks out?
I don't know if there's one necessarily. One, because I was in Glens Falls too before I went to Albany, and to me, one of the most fun nights, it was a day actually, one of the most fun days we had was when they somehow packed 7,000 people into the Civic Center for that Siena-Bradley NIT game.
Oh, there you go.
That was something very, very cool back in '94 when Siena made that Final Four run in the NIT. As far as the TU era, I'll tell you something, man. There isn't one. I can't give you one. But honestly, I miss covering high school so much. I used to love Shen, Saratoga, Bethlehem, Glens Falls, South High, the Foothills, the Wazrin, when there was still a Wazrin. I miss covering high schools because you get so many good stories out of high schools. And, man, I'm going to give you a tip of the cap. I was up there about a month ago. I had a quick one-day trip up to Holmes. I had to take care of something. And you still are talking high schools on TV. You are still giving the Section 2 kids their due, man, and that's awesome that you do that because high school sports to me are still just as cool as anything else.
Tim Reynolds, man, great hearing your voice. We know you're a big 518 guy. And
you know what was not in that answer?
What was that?
Working with Wilkin.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm just glad Timmy's back. I'm glad he's well.
Absolutely.
And I hope he's there for another 700 years. I think that's how long he's been there now.
We'll keep him alive for sure, and he's going to go cover the Belmont Stakes on Saturday. So Wilkin is definitely on the men. Tim Reynolds, thanks for a few minutes. Enjoy Game 3 of the NBA Finals tonight.
Thanks, guys. Be well.